Miami had an early lead, but couldn't hold down, breaking down defensively and struggling to score against the Chicago Bulls. They lost, and now they're likely to enter the play-in tournament as the 10th seed. We'll break down the game and what happens next on today's episode of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. I'm Wes Goldberg here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. For daily content on the Heat, click that subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure you're following us on your favorite podcast app and on your favorite newsletter. Introducing the Locked On Heat daily newsletter. One stop for ultimate Heat and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com to start your day with the all-new free Locked On Heat newsletter. Have a great show for you today. We're recording this on Wednesday night. The Heat just lost to the Bulls, virtually locking them into the 10th seed in the play-in tournament. There's a bunch of stuff that I want to get to from this game, what it means for the Heat going forward. I do want to talk about Tyler Herro's weird decision in a second at the end of this game, but my big takeaway from this one, David, is that the Heat are going to miss the playoffs for the first time since 2019. This loss pretty much guarantees that the Heat are going to play the Bulls in Chicago in the first game of the play-in tournament for that 9-10 game next Wednesday. They're 0-3 against the Bulls this season. The Bulls have the Heat's number. Why should we think that they're going to win next week? And because they're in that 9-10 game, you lose once, you're out. I think this is based on these games, these 3 games that they've lost to this team. Why should we expect them to go into Chicago and suddenly be able to beat this team next week?
Yeah, somehow I'm hardwired to think that Miami is better than Chicago. Maybe it's just based on Chicago's early season struggles and the fact that they didn't really have much of an identity to start off the season. And then Miami has gone through their ups and downs. Obviously, after the trade of Jimmy and everything that they've gone through, the 10-game losing streak to the recent 6-game winning streak. But now here they are pretty much in the same boat. And I would say that they're worse, and they're a bad matchup against Chicago. Like Chicago and the pace they play at, the way they create transition opportunities with Josh Giddey running the floor, their shooters out in the perimeter, the size that they can present with Nikola Vucevic, who's routinely been a thorn in Miami's side throughout his career, mostly in his Orlando days, but even when he's a member of the Bulls, he's had his ups and downs, but I think he's been mostly consistently effective against Miami, and that was the case tonight as well. Just they seem to have Miami's number, and Miami's style of play, dragging things down in the mud, their zone defense. I thought it was a really good point brought up by the broadcast, mentioning Billy Donovan and his experience teaching the zone, that he's effective in not just using the zone himself, but also in how to react to the zone. And they've got just the right kind of offensive flair, especially with Giddey whipping passes across the court and doing all these different things where they can bust up Miami's zone, which has been very effective against even much better teams than Chicago in terms of they just find a way to score when other teams kind of crumble and don't know exactly what to do, and maybe they can lose their footing a little bit here within the course of the game. That doesn't happen in Chicago. Chicago doesn't lose their footing. They don't get unbalanced, and then Miami has no real answer defensively for what it is that the Bulls are trying to do. So it's a bad matchup, and I don't think that Miami can go to Chicago and likely pull out a win. I would say that the Bulls have the upper hand for sure.
Since both of these teams dramatically changed their teams at the trade deadline, Chicago has a better net rating. They have a better offensive rating. They're pushing the pace way faster than Miami. They're near the top of the league in pace, where the Heat are still near the bottom, even before and after Jimmy Butler. It's a bad matchup. You mentioned the zone. I think it's a really good point. And Josh Giddey in particular just gives this team so many problems. And one of them is because, well, A, they don't have anybody that could stay in front of them outside of Davion Mitchell. And every time Giddey got matched up with anybody else, he just blew right by him. Haywood Highsmith, Andrew Wiggins, these guys included. And then the other thing that beats zone defenses is size. And we typically think of a guy like Nikola Jokic who could just beat every defense, but especially his own defense. It just doesn't work because he's so tall and then he could just throw over the top. The same applies for a guy like Giddey, who's 6'7", playing that point guard position. You know, he's like a Magic Johnson-sized guy out there. He's able to see over the defenders, over that zone defense, and throw the passes and deliver them to the spots that he needs to. But it's also not surprising that Kobe White always kind of struggles against Miami too because he's undersized. But they have so many guys like Giddey, like Bazelis, who's a big guy at that forward spot, who had a nice game tonight for Chicago. And you even look like a guy like Vucevic, who his ability to space the floor, that kind of bends and shifts the shape of Miami's zone in a way that they don't want to go.
Right.
And so it's just been, so you combine the fact that Chicago has the thing, they could bust Miami's sort of break glass in case of emergency option, which has been their zone defense for the last 3 years now. Right. But also, that's in the half court. Half the time they're not even playing in the half court because Chicago's just running up and down the floor playing a full court transition game, and Miami's just like a cartoon character fumbling all over themselves. It's a bad matchup for the Heat, which is strange because the Bulls stink, and 6 of their last 7 seasons have been losing seasons, and they've only been in the playoffs once in those seasons. When the Heat have all the experience and the history that they do, but right now this Bulls team is just better than this Heat team.
Yeah, I think that's fair. There's just no other way of putting it. It's unfortunate. What's it going to take to pry Giddey? How would Giddey flourish in Miami?
That's where you want to go with this guy. You're like, let's go get this guy.
Just watch the game. Like to hell with the whole seedings and everything else. Like, get me Josh Giddey on this team. Like, they need a point guard. They need a playmaker. They need a guy who has a little oomph to him in terms of like he kind of showed something tonight. Like not just his shooting, which hasn't been traditionally very good, but he's kind of a gamer. You know, he rose to the challenge today, and he had some nice stretches. Even defensively, he had a couple big plays, getting a block on Davion Mitchell. Like, you know, what's it going to take to pry Giddey out of Chicago?
Well, they signed him to an extension, didn't they?
Damn it. I don't know.
But he's been awesome. He's been awesome, not just against Miami, but lately during this. And by the way, Chicago has been playing well going into this playing tournament.
Yeah.
You know, the organization, they traded Zach LaVine, they traded DeMar DeRozan going into the season. They were trying to tank, and these players are just a little too good, and they're not letting it up. He's basically averaged 18, 10, and 10 over this last 10-game stretch, and it's been a little bit better. Yeah, had another triple-double tonight. I've always sort of been a Giddey fan. I've always sort of liked his game, just because he couldn't shoot threes and teams played off of him in the playoffs.
What they were trying to do.
Yeah, and like, you know what? I know we live in the era of three-point shooting is the only skill that matters in the NBA, but maybe I'm a little old-fashioned and I care about other things. And he just does a lot of the other things at a really high level. He's a really good rebounder, always has been for his position. That was really important in Oklahoma City. And he's doing it now. He's kind of been let off the leash a little bit here in Chicago because he's not having to play next to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or anything like that. I'm not saying that the Thunder made a mistake. Obviously, they did not. But having some room to roam here in Chicago, I think, has been really helpful for Giddey. I don't think that the Heat are going to be able to trade for him, but it is an interesting thing is they do need somebody with size, somebody who could force the issue. And I kept on the other side of the ball, not just talking about when Giddey was on offense and when the Bulls were on offense, but when Miami was on offense, I thought they got stalled so much by Chicago's size. And again, you don't think of the Bulls, nor should you think of the Bulls as a defensive team, but it's another thing with these matchups is Vucevic is always uniquely played well against the Miami Heat, and specifically against Bam. We'll get into Bam here in a little bit. I didn't think he looked physically right, but you know, Miami's guards, Davion Mitchell, Tyler Herro, they had a hard time against Chicago's length on the perimeter, and it just felt like the Bulls were able to flatten them out a lot too, and they weren't able to get that deep into the paint penetration that resulted in you know, an offense that worked. It was just sort of a flat offense all game.
Yeah, made things difficult for Duncan Robinson too. I think that was a huge factor. Like every time they needed a three-point shot to kind of even things up, or maybe kind of help buoy Miami's offense, it just did not allow that to happen. And I think it was partly because of the size, just also their tenacity and chasing him around, making things a little difficult. Duncan passed up a couple of shots that maybe he should have taken, but we've seen that from Duncan before. And normally he can still find his rhythm, but that was not the case tonight where he struggled. So I think that was definitely problematic. But the point you make about their positional size being a big difference maker, I think, is also a good one. Between that, the zone defense, or their ability to bust the zone defense, and the playmaking ability of Giddey, they just seem to have Miami's number in a way that maybe other teams don't. So we talked yesterday about their chances in the play-in tournament. I think we were asked, maybe it was the day before, but either way, we were asked recently about Miami, whether or not it matters if they get the 9 or 10 seed. I don't think it necessarily matters, strangely enough, unless you're facing the Chicago Bulls. Like, we've seen Miami play at their very best, and when they do play that way, they're capable of beating anyone.
Yeah.
Yet somehow Chicago seems to have their number, and I think it's because of the reasons we just outlined. And so when you look into that matchup in the play-in tournament a week from now, that does not favor Miami, and I wouldn't expect them to come out with a victory there.
They need to actually hope. Now you have to start rooting for Chicago, right? Because they're a half game behind Atlanta. Chicago could still climb into that 8th spot potentially.
Yeah, if they can get past Atlanta, I think that's
Atlanta. The Heat are 2-2 against the Hawks, but the Bulls are just this unpenetrable force for the Heat for whatever reason. All right, we're gonna keep it moving. Tyler Herro's decision to pull up from 3 instead of taking an easy layup, that was weird when it happened. But are Heat fans right to blame him for this loss? We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Baseball season's in full swing. Go fish. And there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. And if you're right, well, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, Prize Picks keeps every game exciting. Listen, if you want to go for, I don't know, say maybe Aaron Judge going for more than 1 home run, or Shohei Ohtani going for more than 1 stolen base, well, it's just that easy. You set up a lineup in less than 60 seconds, and when you win, your payout is quick, safe, and secure. And you always can take advantage of their Taco Tuesday or other promotions where Prize Picks offers discounts on select player projections for even more value. So download the app today, use the code LOCKEDONNBA, and you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. We'll be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. We'll be right back.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. The best way to support the show is to like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app. Let's get to the end of the game here. Tyler Herro gets a steal on Kobe White, pulls up for a 3-pointer, surprisingly, and that misses. That leads to a Montes Buzelis 3-pointer, which was essentially the dagger at the end of this game, David. The Heat were down 109-114 when Herro made that steal and then pulled up for 3 with 38 seconds left in the game. Instead of being down by 3 points, 1 possession, had Herro just taken the easy layup, which was basically a guarantee. There was nobody in front of him.
Oh, yeah.
He pulls up for that 3-pointer, and that leads to the dagger. You could also see Tyler Herro, like, this was not a Jimmy Butler Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals situation. Like, Al Horford was right in front of Jimmy Butler in that situation. The score was different. The time was different. There was a lot of things that were different here. And you could, we did the whole thing then, but you could justify, at least at that point, Jimmy Butler's decision to pull up from 3. There was no justifying the decision. I'm not going to sit here and try to defend it. I think it was the wrong decision. And then you can even see Tyler Herro in the on the sideline afterwards, kind of saying, "Yeah, my bad. He kind of screwed that one up." What did you think about the decision?
Not great. Not great. You're right. Look, it never really boils down to just one shot or one possession. You had plenty of opportunity before then. Their offense was bogged down for most of the night. Their defense was pretty porous. So it never really falls on that. It just kind of stings a little bit, especially because it felt like a 6-point swing there. Like you go for the easy 2, then they have to inbound the ball. It takes their time to bring it up. But Zealous probably doesn't get the ball in the same spot. Maybe your defense can adjust a little bit, and then he doesn't hit that dagger 3 that you alluded to. Instead, he misses. They're able to clear the half court pretty easily, and it leads to that Zealous 3 within a span of 15 seconds. So it all happened very, very quickly, and so that stings a little bit, especially because, as you said, the layup was a guarantee. You cut the lead to 3 at that point, maybe force Billy Donovan into timeout. Maybe you can design a play, get a defensive stop, and then go for the 3 after another timeout from Miami. Right. Instead, you rush things a little bit. The 3 was necessary, at least to tie the game. Maybe he was hoping to get that 3 and then maybe get a defensive stop and then another 3, and that would have given them the win. Instead, it didn't matter because he wound up missing the shot, and it led to another 3 from
there's no justifying it, right? Like you take the layup, your defense gets a set up in the half court. The other thing was I thought his teammates were a little confused and taken aback by the decision because they hadn't even gotten past half court, most of them, to catch up with Tyler Herro when he pulled up for that 3. And then so you say like, well, at least you're still on the other side of the court, but they were so, I think, discombobulated by the decision that Zealous still got that 3-pointer open in the corner. No, if Herro takes the layup, you set up in the half court defensively, maybe you get a stop, call a timeout, maybe set up a play to get a better look for a 3-pointer and potentially tie the game. It was the wrong decision. I'm not defending the decision, but I'm also not going to sit here and blame Tyler Herro. If we were doing the blame pie segment that we used to do, David, I don't know that I would give any to Tyler Herro. Like, I don't know that I would give him a single slice because he was the only player that was doing anything offensively outside of a couple of minutes of Davion Mitchell doing stuff. He had 30 points in this game. I know it was on 26 shots, but he shot 50% overall. Most of that stuff was on 2-pointers. He wasn't getting any foul calls, didn't get to the line at all in this game. He did go 2 for 7 from 3-point range. I thought he made a couple of playmaking plays, but yeah, he had 30 points on 50% shooting in this game. Nobody else came close to that. Davion Mitchell had 17 points on 10 shots. That was pretty good. Like I said, he kind of got fire in that second half. Bam had 18 points, but he was inefficient and not good for most of this game. There's a lot of places I think I would start with blame before I got to Tyler Herro, who was like the only thing going from the beginning to the end offensively for Miami.
Yeah, it's not his fault they lost, but it was still a bad decision. He shouldn't have done it.
Right.
Like that's
well said.
That's it.
Well, let's talk about the Bam part of this. So he misses that game earlier this week in Philly with back spasm, lower back spasms. And then he was listed as sort of questionable, and then he's available on this. I don't know that he should have played in this game. I understand why he did, because there was a lot riding on this game if you consider moving up to the 9 seed a lot of anything that's important. But there was at least something at stake here. He didn't look right physically in this game. This was not the usual Bam struggles against Vucevic thing. He couldn't get by Vucevic, and we have done this, right? Like the things that Bam used to struggle with, he doesn't really struggle with anymore this season.
Yeah.
He did struggle with them tonight. He didn't look right. He looked slow. There was multiple times where he just couldn't get up as high. He wasn't as effective as a rebounder. Only 6 rebounds in this game, 0 offensive rebounds in this game. He just didn't look right. I don't know what else. He didn't look right physically. And at this point, I would shut him down for the rest of the season because you're locked into the 10th seed. So what are you even doing with this?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
He looked like he was. I want to be clear. Regular season.
Yeah, he looked like he had some energy to him to start the game. He had a couple 3-pointers within the first few minutes, and you're thinking, oh, okay, maybe this is that kind of breakout performance from Bam.
Right.
But eventually, I think whatever, and again, we're just theorizing here, but whatever physical limitations he might have been feeling or whatever he was experiencing clearly took him out, and he kind of just lost his steam over the course of the game, and just to your point, he just wasn't very effective. So if you're going to try to win the game in the play-in tournament and you want to continue advancing, and look, I wouldn't blame this team for just rolling over. I know that sounds sacrilegious when you're talking about the Miami Heat and everything else and Heat culture, but the reality is, I mean, you've got 2 games at this point to try to advance into the playoffs just so you can face the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's a pretty daunting challenge. So that being the case, just shut him down. Don't aggravate the injury. Don't do anything that's going to make things significantly worse. I mean, who are they playing now? They're playing the Sixers.
It's the Pelicans. The Pelicans on Friday night, and then in New Orleans, and then you host the Wizards on Sunday. You should not even need Bam to beat
That's
those
a good point.
teams. And those games also don't matter. They don't matter. Right? I would actually hope that the Heat tank those games, potentially improve your draft position in the lottery in the event that you don't make the playoffs, right? You might as well. There's nothing else, there's nothing to play for. You're locked into the 10th seed. You can't move up and you can't move down. Like, they're locked into 10. And they don't even have, and the great part is they don't even have to frame it as tanking. They could say, we're just trying to get healthy for the playoffs. Bam is literally on the injury report with these lower back spasms. We're going to rest him. These games don't matter. We saw how much we needed him against Chicago to be healthy. This is what we're doing. You could literally tank and say you're doing it for winning. It's a win-win.
And we saw him even get injured in the Bulls game too. Like, if you want to say, oh, he's got a knee contusion after he took a direct shot. I think it was the second quarter when he got hit in the knee.
You could do that one. You could do the one where he slid out of bounds and it kind of looked like he took a hard fall there. There's so many things you could point to.
Yeah, you don't have to make anything up. You don't have to face the wrath of Adam Silver in the NBA.
Shut Wiggins down. He's been dealing with this lingering stuff the whole time. Shut down Tyler Herro. You want to make sure he's fresh. You can say, look, the guy's 8th in total minutes played. We need to make sure that he's fresh for a long run here. We don't want to risk any injuries to him. Shut them all down. Shut it down. John Taffer, this baby. Shut it down.
And hope that you have whatever, maybe you're rested and healed and you're raring to go when you do face the Bulls next week.
And the Cavs in the first round of the playoffs, right? You could
well, it's not even that, right? You face the Bulls and then you have to face somebody else, don't you?
That's right. You'd have to play either Atlanta or Orlando. So you're gonna need Bam, and you're gonna need to be in peak health to beat those juggernauts. We're gonna take a quick
some sarcasm here,
just a little, maybe a little bit. We're gonna come back, and when we do, we've got a conspiracy theory submitted by a listener that you guys are gonna have to listen to. We'll get to that next here on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to DoorPass. Every time a player scores 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. I thought Luka Doncic was going to do it in his comeback against the Dallas Mavericks there. Only fell short, though. He had 45, including 31 in the first half. But it's so simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 24-25 NBA regular season, just a few more games to do so. Dash Pass members get $50 off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. Let's say after an epic 50-point performance, you want to celebrate by ordering some wings, a pizza maybe, or burgers from your favorite spot. Well, you get those delivered straight to your door. Maybe sometimes you're staying up late watching games and, all the playoff races are still up in the air, except for Miami, and you need a midnight snack. Well, you can use DoorDash to grab something delicious while saving big. If you're planning to catch the next big game, order your go-to snacks and meals at a discount and get ready for more high-scoring action, except in Miami. Sign up for DoorDash and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use the promo code NBA50. That's NBA50 from noon until midnight after a 50-point game or on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms to apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. We'll be right back.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. The playoff race is heating up for the Heat as the season winds down. Can they secure a play-in spot, a spot in the playoffs? Stay in the know with the Locked On Heat podcast newsletter and get a chance to win one of these amazing prizes by subscribing. You can win a $2,500 Best Buy gift card to upgrade your Sports Cave setup, maybe a $300 Game Time gift card, or a $200 Fanatics gift card. Sign up between April 7th and April 30th, 2025 to be entered. Our Heat newsletter delivers real-time updates, expert analysis, and playoff insights tailored for you. Subscribe for now for free to the Locked On Heat newsletter and stay ahead as the season unfolds. Subscribe today. Click the link in the description to enter LockedOnDaily.com. Before we get to our conspiracy theory that we got via email from a listener, we're going to breeze through a couple of listener questions submitted by the Locked On Heat Insider community. Thanks to everybody, as always, who sends in these questions. You could find that link in the show notes as well. Max writes in, is Miami allergic to two-pointers? Miami had multiple possessions where they settled for contested threes instead of going for sure twos. I saw that too also, and it wasn't just the Tyler Herro pull-up one. I just think this was a matter of what we were talking about earlier, David. The pace, I think they were kind of on their heels, over their skis the entire game, and I think it led to some poor offensive decisions in this one.
Yeah, I'd have to agree there. I don't think they're allergic to twos. I think that's a a pretty healthy staple of their diet. But at the same time, this was not the matchup for them to exploit that opportunity. They just didn't get the kind of looks that they might normally do so. And I think a big part of that also was, as we talked about, Bam's struggles offensively. Normally, that would offset it. I wonder if the Tyler shot may have, you know, exaggerate the situation a little bit, because obviously he could have gone for the easy two. Instead, you're kind of focusing on that as a fan. And I think that kind of, again, you might point to something that statistically, I don't think it necessarily means that they don't take a lot of twos.
33 of their shots tonight, 33 of their 92 shots tonight were from 3-point range. That's not a crazy amount.
Right.
So
it seems like a pretty normal balance.
Malachi writes in, I'm a Heat fan for life, but I'm ready for a break from Heat basketball. Am I the only one that's ready for a fresh start next season? Because I don't think that this team can win 2 games on the road in the play-in. Do you think, I'm going to reframe the question, but I think it's a good launching point. Do you think it's even worth winning the 2 games and making the playoffs? Is making the playoffs at this point an accomplishment? I'm not even ignore the tanking and the draft pick part of it and all, just the idea of making the playoffs, knowing that you're kind of a dead man walking.
Yeah, I again, to me, it just feels like that would be an accomplishment for this team, kind of just to give them that boost, that confidence that, we can do this without Jimmy, that we can do this with Tyler as our lead, that we can go through all the different ups and downs and the different challenges and trying to incorporate new players, and that somehow we were able to accomplish this and face the challenges that they will in the play-in tournament. Like, if they get past the play-in tournament, that's pretty impressive. Like, we've never seen, I don't think we've seen a 10 seed be able to do this, right? And so that being the case, I think Miami would feel pretty good about themselves, and they'd look forward to the matchup against the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I'm kind of hardwired to think it is.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that has to do with the conspiracy theory. So let's jump right in. This is an email from John, and it's kind of a 2-parter. It's a little long, so bear with me while I read it. But it's worth listening to here. So John says, "Hey guys, I have a conspiracy theory that I hope you guys can debunk." So we're going to start with debunking this. You know how it works? Sometimes something's about to go down, a promotion or a firing, and everybody who knows just keeps their head down and waits for it to happen. I'm wondering if that's what's going on with Andrew Wiggins. He knows he's going to be in a Phoenix jersey next year, so why risk injury? And the Heat know the deal for Durant is happening on draft night or after they pick who Phoenix wants, and the last thing they need is for Wiggins to get hurt. He is who he is, and there's nothing for him to prove and everything to lose by playing him. Or there's probably a legit reason he's out and I'm just out of the loop. But he seems to have just vanished with very little mention of why or when he might return. Obviously, this was sent before he returned to the game tonight. That was a brief aside. Back to the email. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of the KD idea, but hey, why not? Also, you said no team has ever made the playoffs from the 9-10 game. That's like waving a red flag in front of a bull for the Miami Heat. There's our season-saving accomplishment right there. The Cavs don't want us. We beat them once and took them to the wire another time. We're not a fun matchup for them because I think Bam enjoys playing against Donovan Mitchell and rises to the challenge. That's what I see anyway. So there's the email. That's the conspiracy theory, David. Like I said, 2 different parts there. Let's start with the Andrew Wiggins thing.
Yeah.
Can you
unfortunate
debunk
for
it?
John. Yeah, I mean, he played tonight, so I guess
Right,
that kind of takes it out right there. But I can understand the idea that I don't think he feels like a dead man walking. Like, I don't think any NBA player does. Like, you're not
Wiggins?
a lame duck. I don't think, you're in this situation. You're doing what you can. You make the most of it. You came back from injury. Like, he didn't have to play. I think he wanted to play to help save Miami's chances to, in a high impact game or in a game with some significance, added meaning to it. And I think that kind of shows that he's committed to this team for now. I don't think he's thinking of the future in that sense.
Well, let me ask you, do you think the Durant trade's already done? Is that a good conspiracy theory? Durant and Bam have a relationship. They won gold medals together.
Absolutely not. I think Phoenix is dealing with their own mess right now. They've got to get through their season. Right now, they're even out of the play-in tournament. So Miami's in a better position than Phoenix is. Who would have guessed that at the start of the season? But here we are. So no, like there's a possibility of KD being acquired by Miami, but that's certainly not a done deal. And I don't think Wiggins is operating under that assumption either. So I think it's an interesting conspiracy, but I don't think there's any legs to it.
Yeah, I mean, the debunking of it was when Wiggins played in this game. Unfortunately, he just emailed us right before this the Heat played this game, and Wiggins was announced as available. The other part
what
of
do you
this,
make of what do you make of Niko Jovic? Total aside here, Niko Jovic joining the team in Chicago.
What am I supposed to think about it?
Does he play? Does he come back?
Oh, I could see Nico wanting to come back just to get some live game reps and test the injury if he's feeling good about it.
If you're going to shut down everybody else, do you play him over the next 2 games? Like, is that?
I think you play him no matter what. If he feels like he's ready to go, we saw, and this might not be the best, most optimistic example, but we saw Victor Oladipo do this a couple of years ago and score 40 points against Orlando Magic in the last game of the season. That's what I'm saying. This tends to be the time where guys who have been injured will just come back and test their injury and try to get some live game reps. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Jovic 50-point outburst against the Washington Wizards to wrap up the season. Sign me up. I'm all for it.
That'd be great. There's also a big Serbian contingent in Chicago. So maybe he just wanted to visit some familiar people.
Get
I don't know.
Serbian food while he's out there.
Yeah.
You guys go ahead and stick it up.
Go to Serbia town.
I'll be noshing over here. Yeah. What's the Serbian word for nosh?
It could be nosh. I don't know. I don't even know. Is nosh English? I have no idea.
Yiddish. Come on. Oh, jeez. I shouldn't have to tell you this. Like that's just weird.
The 9-10 part of the 9-10 game part of this. I do think that the Heat would look at this as, I mean, I can already hear the quote, right? The practice before the play-in tournament, before Miami has to travel to Chicago. You know, we know the narratives. We know all the noise around being in the play-in tournament. We've done it before. I can already hear the Eric Spoelstra press conference.
He's loving that opportunity. The opportunity to be the first team in NBA history to accomplish this. We've got one game at a time, but when the challenge is laid out for us, et cetera, et cetera. Like, yeah, if we haven't heard it before, we've heard some variation of it to some degree, certainly. And so I mean, I think he would love the opportunity. I don't know if anybody on this roster is as much of a sicko. Maybe Bam. Other than that, I don't know that Kyle Anderson, given a chance to kind of just take his vacation a little early, is like, yeah, I can't wait for 2 games against to accomplish something in NBA history. Like, you have to be a real sicko, and Spo certainly qualifies, but I don't know who else on the roster would.
Bam.
Yeah, that's it, right? Even Tyler
would show up. I don't know.
Yeah, I got my kids. I mean, what's AJ up to? I don't know. Can she like start? Sorry, I don't want to bring it up, but I mean, does she have tickets to the Bahamas or something? I mean, can't they do something? The WNBA season isn't taking place now, is it?
It is not. But no, that's the sort of thing that this Heat team just tends to get up for. And as much as the rest of the league might want to roll their eyes at it, I think there's some truth to it. And I would bet we also, we talked about this earlier this week when I was asked on the squad show, what's the team that the top 2 seeds in the East don't want to see out of the play-in tournament? I'm telling you, I don't know if they're right. I don't know if they're wrong. But if you ask them and get a little bit of truth serum in them, they're all going to say the Miami Heat because of the reputation that they have around the league. But
sickos.
Except for the Chicago Bulls, evidently.
Right.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app.